time to cut some wood. Welcome back to the shop on the channel. And I had mentioned in the previous video I need to get a way to get this stabilized so I can clamp everything together and do the cut. It just so happens that the chair seat rails fit perfectly in my tail vise. So now it's nice and, yeah, I'm moving the bench. It's nice and snug and tight, and it ain't going anywhere. So now I can take my jig, set it down on the chair, and clamp it in place so that it doesn't move with relation to the chair. So that's nice and solid. This is nice and solid. I can make the cuts now. The way, as I mentioned earlier, it's a router and a bushing. So I'm using my 1/2 inch plunge router with the bushing in place, and of course the 3/8 inch bit. And this is going to slide along here very nicely, so that I can make the cuts. Now I've also set the depth stop, you know, these 3-step depth stops here, so that I can gradually make my way into the workpiece. And if I need to go any deeper, I can set it so I can go actually deeper, but right now I think I'm fine. So the first cut is going to be, I'm just going to take this and push it down to just touches the work table, excuse me, the chair, bring it up just a little bit and lock it in place, and I'll go back and forth to start the cut. And after that, I'll just continue on going deeper and deeper with each cut to make the slot for the spline that's going in there, slot and spline that's going in there to strengthen this chair here, the whole leg and back assembly. As you notice here, I've got a dust port. Dust port's right here for the dust collection system, and the hose is over there, so I got to hook all that up. Vacuum hooked up, router ready to go. Going to do a skim cut, a little skim cut, a little bit of ear protection here. Let's see how well this works out. That looks pretty good. I'll take a picture of this and we'll include it in the video, and then now I'm going to go ahead and start making the rest of the cuts. Okay, so what I've got here is it actually went down through and a little deeper than I expected, but we just got some pegs showing, but the glue mass is still there. I'm going to put some glue in there inside the joint and get that down in there, and then put the spline in place. But let me take off the jig and see what we've got here. Going to take a picture because bringing the camera down here can be a pain in the butt. A couple of pictures. All right, I'm going to get a measuring stick and put it in there to see how deep it is. And I've already got the piece of maple I want to use. I just have to mill it. Just about where I wanted it, which was, let's see, yeah, just a little over 3/4 of an inch is what I've got for the slot, and that's plenty for the wood to go in here and do its thing and keep it nice and strong. So let me mill out the the spline that's going in here. And then once the spline is milled out and I've got it perfectly fit, I will glue it in place. I started making the spline that's going in here. Now, you can see I've got a clamp here. That's to bring everything in alignment and to tighten up this little joint here. And I found out when I cut the spline, this is solid mahogany. So I'm not going to put a maple spline in here. It'll be too difficult to match color. I'm putting a mahogany spline in here, and I have little bits of mahogany all around the shop. And since this was done with a router, I've already rounded over here, and I've marked a line where I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to round over this end, and then sneak up on it a little bit to make it fit into the slot. Now, I kind of was able to date this finally because as you saw in the picture, inside the spline slot, there are dowels. And there's dowels going in two directions. And the dowels mean machine made, basically machine made. There is some handwork. I've seen some handwork in here, but most of this is machine made. And then assembly by hand and cleaned up by hand and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely Industrial Revolution past, after the Industrial Revolution. So I'm guessing this is probably mid-century, mid-20th century maybe. Not sure, doesn't matter, really. So let me go ahead and cut this off, and I'll show you how I'm doing the spline on the router table, which is real easy. It's basically a 3/8 inch beading bit. A little bit of sanding, a little bit of clearing out of here with a chisel, and this now fits in there nice and snug. Now what I need to do, of course, is take that pencil. I'll do it on this side because it's easier. I'll mark a line along this side here. That means less wood to remove, obviously, when I go to clean it up to fit down. So there's the line. I need to cut that off there, just above that line, outside of it. We should leave it proud enough here to remove the wood that I want to remove. So for my next trick, I will glue this in place. Like I said, it's probably going to be using epoxy because of, I know people use epoxy in this thing for joints, but you need to use a glue that you can unmake when you're doing things like this, repairs and restorations. You never want to unmake this. You want this to remain permanently, so that will be epoxy. So let me mix up some epoxy, get that stuck down in there. It'll have wood flour in it, by the way. And we'll let that cure. Okay, I mixed up the epoxy, and now I need to spread it on the spline. I'm using a quicker epoxy this time, so this might want to get it on there good. And on the bottom, because I want to fill in some of the gaps on the bottom. And then I got to get the squeeze out off once I put it in. All right, now let's place it in here. Push it down tight, and I'm going to get clamps to clamp it in place. Now, once that's driven in, we don't need the clamps anymore because friction fit's going to hold it in place. I just want to wipe up as much of this epoxy as I can from the joint. I mean, I have to sand this down and do the finish to it again because this, when I do the cutting and the sanding and getting this down flush with the surface, then I'll need to touch up the finish that's on this chair. This is what I mean. There's a little bit of epoxy on here and here. I get some acetone to get some of that off, but I'll need to do a little bit of sanding. And then once I shave this down and expose the bare wood, then I have to finish this with a either aniline dye or something to get the finish that I want on the on this, the look that I want on this. Just try to match this as close as possible. Before I go ahead and finish shaving this down to the surface of the chair, you'll note it has an antenna. You see that? It has an antenna. I had to fill in this 1/4-inch hole that was drilled down into the piece that really didn't do the repair well enough. And I want it to be a perfect 1/4-inch snug fit, so I have one of these. I highly recommend it. You can get them from one of the usual suspects. What it is a die, and you cut your piece of wood close to where you are, and you just hammer it down through these holes, and it cuts the dowel to the exact diameter of the hole. And so I take a piece of mahogany, cut it down to a square just a little over 1/4-inch, and then I 8-side it with hand plane, and then hammer it down through the holes. And I started with 9/37. No, I started with 15/16, which was not, it went pretty quick. Then 9/32, and then the 1/4-inch, and I got this. So I have to cut this off now, and then start doing the planing and carving to get these things all fit, and then we can put some stain on it, and I'll finish on it, and we're done. So there it is. I'm all ready to start planing and stuff to get these to the surface of the chair. I'm going to use my hand plane and then a spoke shave probably, because there's a slight curvature here. I don't want to cut into that curvature, so I'll use a spoke shave and then sand it. So let's get busy with that. So what I used was my low angle block plane, and then a little bit of the flat spoke shave, and then the radiused spoke shave. It's radiused in this dimension, so you can do these curvatures. Now I need to gently do some sanding and put some finish on this and get it ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning out this so it's ready for finish, and then we'll put the finish on, which I think I've got the right stain, but we'll have to do some test pieces. So one of the stains I have in-house, which is this, I've used this, you've seen me use this before, General Finishes Black Cherry Wood Stain, is close. I think another coat of that on here will take care of it, and then I'll make sure it's got the right amount of stain on it to match this color here, and from there on it'll be done, and I can hand this over to our friend. And there you go, another quasi, semi, whatever restoration in the books. I'll get that stain touched up so it's good. Put a coat of probably shellac on it, because I think it had shellac as an original coat, the original finish. And this will go off to its home. It's forever home where it belongs. So until next time, make great things out of wood.